Morning, everybody. Today is the 17th day in the month of June 2022. My name is Heritage Adisa, Markets Analyst at HFM Nigeria. Quickly, as always, we check through the markets, find out what the overall sentiment is, what's happening in the market, what the big stories are, how it's affecting asset classes, if they provide opportunities, and then how we can take advantage of it. But please, like always, remember this is just the communication material. And nothing in this communication contains or should be considered as investment advice or an investment recommendation. Users acknowledge that investment in FX and CFD products is characterized by a certain degree of uncertainty, and that any investment of this nature involves a high level of risk, for which users are solely responsible and liable. Now, what we have this morning in terms of the overall market environment, well, we're still in that overall weaker environment in the market, negative environment in the market. But so far today, we're starting more on the mixed side, and it's not really a surprise. But let's quickly dive into what was written, earlier. For now, BOJ stands apart, right? To not follow the rest of the other major central banks like the Federal Reserve, like the Bank of England, and even the S&B, who all hiked interest rates between Wednesday and yesterday, right? But having said that, the BOJ left rates unchanged at 0.10%. Now, I said markets continue to trade cautiously after a bout of interest rate hikes by the Fed, S&B, as well as the BOE, that's the Bank of England, in a continued fight against global inflation, as well as fears of incoming recession. Right, equities generally have continued to print, fresh downside all week. If you look at the US futures, for example, most of them are down around 10% so far. US 500 down by 11%, 10%, right? All down around 10% so far this week. That tells you and gives you an idea of the kinds of moves that we've had, so far this week, right? If you look at other risk assets, Bitcoin, for example, down so much, right? You look at high beta currencies as well, right? And look at the safe havens, they're leading the majors just one after the other. The USD, the JPYs, even as the CHF as well, leading the majors, so far this week. Now, early in the morning today, we had the Bank of Japan meeting, interest rate meeting, where they left rates unchanged. And I said here they failed to follow the steps of the S&B, who surprised markets yesterday with a 50 basis point hike, in their meeting yesterday, right? Them leaving rates unchanged more or less surprised some market participants, because some of us had thought that, because the S&B had moved, it's likely that the BOJ also moves. But basically, they did not move anywhere, and they basically said that they will not hesitate to losing further if the economy requires that. That effectively sent, the Japanese yen to the bottom of the majors, lagging the most amongst the major effects. The CHF continues to lead the majors, continuing from its strength from yesterday, because apart from the fact that they hiked by way more than markets were expecting, right? Markets were expecting not to even hike at all, but still markets were pricing in a 25 basis point hike, but then they went on to hike by 50 basis point. Now, that clearly was a massive surprise. Market had not really priced in solid, upside in the CHF on back of rate hikes, right? And there's still so much risk off in the market. So all of this still supports, the CHF. And I wrote here, I said, the strength in the CHF may remain for some time, right? So put that in the back of our mind. You look across the other majors, the US and the CAD joined the JPY at the bottom of the majors. For the dollar, mostly pressured by falling bond yields. That's US 10-year, dropped off its multi-year high, from yesterday's session, and that's seeing a little bit of pressure for the dollar, but nothing much I want to latch on. So the CAD is also pressured as well in today's session. Now, for the Canadian dollar, oil prices are a little bit up, right? Amongst other commodities. So, I mean, that's not something I want to latch on to. And you look at the other hand, the euro and the pounds are also joining the CHF at the top of the majors so far today. And clearly, we still have concerns with the bank of with the pound. Yes, the BOE hike. Yes, that's good in the short term, but there's still so much uncertainty around the UK economy as well as the UK political climate. So there's that to pay attention to as well. You look generally overall, all things considered, sentiment remains on the weak side, right? Although so far today we have somewhat mixed, start to the session. Right. If you look at equities generally, most of them are trading mixed. You look at commodities generally, most of them trading mixed. Bond yields mixed. Even measures of volatility as well, trading mixed, right? So clearly, it calls for some patience, some caution, and it's not really out of place if you consider the kind of volatile moves, that we've had all through the week, right? Now, as a trader, if you want to look out for further strength in the CHF, right, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Although you have to pay attention to the technical levels. You look at some of the CHF crosses and they're heading into support levels. Something like CAD CHF, for example, is struggling at 0.745 support level. Now, if broken and retested, could be interesting. And then we have NZD-CHF as well, struggling at 0.61 support level. Now, we could look on the other hand and say, okay, you know what? How about we take some, JPY weakness, right, on the back of the Bank of Japan? Well, not a bad idea. Bank of Japan are even pivoting even a way, like they're more okay, the pivot or the variance between other central banks, other um, developed market central banks, as well as the Bank of Japan, is getting wider, right? They are sticking to the dovish bonds. Other central banks have moved, right? So, I mean, I think it remains just the Euro, the ECB, and they're planning to move next month. So that clearly still adds weakness in the Japanese yen. But, you look at the risk of, weaker sentiment we have so far today, that could strengthen JPY, right? Bond yields falling could strengthen the JPY. So all of that just makes it just a little bit, tricky, right? And then you look at the calendar as well in the day ahead, is mostly a light one, nothing major, expected there on the calendar. So having said that, just a quick run through the charts and then we're good. Now, just quickly. All right, now this is an example of what I'm saying, right? This is US 500, right? Yesterday we've had downside. So far this week, I mean, it's just been continuous flush to the downside, right? Down about 10.37% so far today. For the month rather, I meant to say for the month, right? For the week about 5.21%, right? All down already. But so far today, we are seeing just a little bit of bounce from yesterday's lows. But I mean, it's not something I want to latch onto. Not at all. Not something I want to latch onto. More or less. Just a second. It's loading up. We could look at this and call this quickly. Just a moment, just taking some time. Okay, I think we're good. All right, let's go back. All right, good. Now, a little bounce up yesterday, but so far today, I mean, for an asset like US 500 to have moved just 0.6%, that clearly tells you hasn't really gone anywhere, right? And then we could look at this as a retest of yesterday's, European low, as well as even 14th of June's low as well. And then it could just be a pullback. But because it's Friday, profit taking is there. The amount of volatile moves that we've had so far this week, right? It just says, be more and more cautious, right? So there's that to pay attention to. Having said that, you look across the other equity spaces, is more the same story there, right? Not much to watch there. Now, quickly running through the majors, right? Yesterday we talked about pound CHF, right? And where we said that yes, we wanted to sell, wanted to wait for a deeper pullback before looking to continue this to the downside. And then we really had it yesterday. It was really late. And we had a pullback towards the 50 level as well, very close to the lows, just pinpoint of the lows of 14th of June. And then we've continued lower in today's session. Now, right now in today's session, yes, despite GB being strong, I mean, against the CHF, you're still weaker. And then we could look at further downside here, but just wanted to show us that pullback and continuation lower that we talked about yesterday. Because when you have massive moves like this, especially on the back of central bank meetings, right, you miss the first trust. Nothing says you can wait for the second trust, usually around the 50% retracement, 38, 56 to 1% retracement, and then continuation to the downside, looking to catch the second trust. It provides you a cooler way to go into the market, a more relaxed way to go into the market, a higher price to sell from, a lower price to buy from, and then a little bit more relaxed instead of having to jump in on price moves and then jumping in on volatility, where you could even be exposed to higher spreads, right? So having said that, that's what I want to look out for as well. All right, now, yes, good. Now, USD JPY is another interesting one for me. Barring what we have right now in today's session, I think going forward into the next week, I think there's still a lot of room for upside on this particular pair because of the divergence from central banks. Exactly what the BOG have just done today, right? Now, we could talk about this currency pair being overly stretched at the top, right? But, I still expect to see some form of upside. Now, this is not something I'm looking for in this week, but just going into next week is something on my radar, and I just wanted to point it out to us before, we call it a day. Now, if you there's a couple of support levels around here, this round number here, right? You can just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, we've broken back above this level. Going into next week, if you can get some today, wouldn't be a bad idea, but mostly going into next week, a pullback over this level and a continuation to the upside could be one I'm looking out for, going into the week, as long as sentiment around the market, right, especially with central bank commentary remaining the same. But so far today, all things considered, is one of those tricky days. CHF leads, JPY lags. right? Safe havens on both ends, and then you have so much mixed flows. I'm not looking to jump into anything concrete right now. It's a Friday, so more patience on my own side, and I will move most of ideas into next week. Like I said, on the calendar is a light one. We'll just have Fetcher Powell on the wires, right, later today. Apart from that, really, we don't have, much on the wire, just Fetcher Powell, but most of the calendar is really bare, right? Nothing tier one, right, expected in the day ahead. So we're going to call it a day at that point. Thank you very much. And please do not hesitate to ask if you have any questions. And do enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your weekend, and do take care. Goodbye for now.